What the are you doing playing it safe all the time? You live in a world that is breathing you and feeding you and giving you water to swim in and love in your heart and sexual organs to experience things. And like, you live in this amazing world that is giving you so much to experience, and you're staying in the bubble of your safety little world?
Hi, Schmoozers. Welcome back to Schmoozing Time. For those of you that are new here, I am David Cobby, and I am on a mission to share the stories of the personal brands of many proud Jews. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to tune into this week's episode. Do you ever get so anxious that you simply don't know what to do with yourself? You feel that no medication or activity can calm you down. Well, today's your lucky day because you are about to hear from someone who is dedicated to coaching people and helping them improve their emotional intelligence. He's also a former Broadway performer and had a stint working for WME, one of the premier talent agencies. Here to talk about his personal brand and Jewish pride is none other than Ryan Weiss. Ryan, welcome to the show. How are we doing today, man?
Great. Happy to be here with you, David. And hello, everyone.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. And I made the mistake of listening to your interview with Yair before this episode, not because I don't like Yair, not because I don't like you, but because now I have so many more questions about your career. And, you know, I'm just listening to the interview and I'm hearing all these things about how you found Judaism and how you got into acting. And there's so much to unpack about your brand and your story. You got to start off by talking about your Jewish journey and your Jewish identity. I think what I recall from the episode with the year is that you grew up, first of all, you're a triplet, which is something that's super unique. And not only that, but everybody in your family had some role in Judaism, whether it's a rabbi or you know, working in the Jewish space. So I want you to go into that, and if there's like pressure to kind of go into the Jewish sphere. So talk to me about your Jewish journey, Ryan.
Okay. Gosh. Yeah. So I'm raised in Los Angeles as a Reform Jewish person. I've always identified as a Jew. I've always really actually loved being Jewish. Some of the highlights of my childhood was Jewish sleepaway camp. And I never really got the spiritual part of it. I didn't see it. I didn't witness it. I didn't go to synagogue or Hebrew school and feel like there was really any concern about giving me some kind of a connection to God other than talking about it. And so I just wrote that part off. I thought, okay, this is my community, but I didn't feel a connection to it as any significant. I didn't feel like it had any kind of significant impact on me spiritually. I don't even know that I was looking for that, but certainly I didn't witness it there. I'd say my spiritual identity came really actually through dance, which I started dancing at 16, and that became my synagogue. That became my sanctuary. That became the place where I felt the most safe to express myself, to connect to an intelligence beyond my understanding. I felt my body was being moved by intelligence that wasn't just like my brain technology telling my body what to do. It was too beautiful for that. So in a way, when I was dancing, I literally had the experience that I wasn't dancing, that something was dancing me. And that really became my introduction to a sense of mysticism and spirituality. 16, 17 years ago, I started studying all now called modern spirituality. And it happened through yoga. It happened through a course, a text called A Course in Miracles, which is a metaphysical, non-dogmatic text that's said to be written. Let's remember he was a rabbi and a Jew, but that is said to be written through Christ consciousness. So for me as a Jewish person, kind of weird that I'm reading this book that uses Christic language. But it was giving me so much. It was so indie powerful. It was, as I said, non-dogmatic, non-religious. It wasn't trying to gather groups of people to study it together. It was all about a personal practice and a personal relationship with the divine.
Yeah.
Me as a Jewish person, that was kind of weird. Because, if I'm going to have some kind of religious experience, it should happen through what we know to be Jewish. But meanwhile, Jesus was a Jew. He was a rabbi. We forget that. And this text was, as I said, non-religious. It wasn't trying to gather groups of people. It was about a personal practice and a personal discipline to have a relationship with the divine and to open my heart and open my mind and be willing to have a relationship with the unknown. And it gave me so many beautiful tools that were deeply impacting my daily life. And I was noticing the way they were affecting my work, my money, my relationships. And that's what I care about. I don't care what the door looks like as long as it's walking me to the path that I feel I'm supposed to be walking. And so a few years after that, actually almost exactly 10 years ago, I started hosting these Shabbat dinners. And this is before Shabbat was popular. I know everyone's hosting Shabbat dinners now. We ended up calling it Tribe, Trybe. Probably many of your listeners have joined either in LA or in New York. And we would do these like 200, 300 person Shabbat dinners in beautiful locations and bring in live music and poetry and art and amazing food. And my friend Chaya and I would host the ceremony. And I started finding my way back into Judaism and back into the recognizing that all, what I say now is like, for the last 15, 16 years, I've identified as a Buju. You've heard that before, right? Like a Buddhist Jew, a Buju.
Yep.
Which, by the way, Jewish people are responsible for bringing Buddhism to the West. So if you look at the Buddhist teachers in the 60s and 70s and even 50s, a lot of them were Jews who were looking for a more personal relationship with their spirituality. And over these last 10 years, I've come to realize that the Bu is already in the Jew. In fact, I just was never educated about the fact that our religion has it all in there. I don't need to. Yep. It's great to go to yoga. It's great to study these other religions, but I was living in this pretense that said that somehow Judaism wasn't a deep enough spiritual, mystical, personal path. And over the last decade, I've found, yes, it is. I just I didn't know. I wasn't educated about it. I didn't have rabbis or teachers who were connected deeply enough in their own mystic Judaism to help me find that myself. And since then, I've some of my friends call me the rabbi. I host what I call contemplative Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur experiences, contemplative Passover seders, where we're taking very personally, rather than going to synagogue in the way I did growing up and listening to this rabbi give these sermons, and it's kind of like, okay, and we're getting up and we're citing these words, and the majority of people don't really know what we're saying, and we're kind of going through the motions. In the experiences I host, it's like, what does Rosh Hashanah really mean? What does Yom Kippur really mean? And how can I utilize mindfulness, meditation, music, contemplation for you to walk out of here a changed person using the wisdom of Judaism? And so that I've never been more proud to be a Jew. I've never felt more proud to have my relationship with Israel. I've very much woken up in the last year more identifying as a Jewish American as opposed to an American Jew. That is the horrific blessing of October 7th to me, is the way we Jews felt so unbelievably isolated looking at the discourse of what happened after October 7th, and then start feeling very alone, but then finding each other and recognizing that we are a community and we have a responsibility to be with each other and connect with each other and to support each other. And so for me, I never really thought that Judaism was going to be such a big part of my life, but now I couldn't be happier to be Jew.
So much to unpack there, Ryan, and thank you for sharing, what most people would call a out of the box kind of Judaism. And I think everybody needs to be more open minded, but especially Jews, right? We're so stuck in our ways about everything, and I love this idea that you're taking Judaism, right, and looking at the emotional, spiritual connection of it, as opposed to simply just going through the motions, right? Like you said, I don't think there's a single person out there, even the most religious of the religious, that can say that every single moment, right, they're connected to God in every single way. In fact, one of the reasons why we don't wear tefillin all the time is because when you, in the old days, right? I actually learned this from my Chabad rabbi. So shout out Rabbi Bachman. If you were wearing tefillin, right, you have to be connected to God. That's just the rule. So people in the old days, when there weren't electronics and all these distractions, you'd wear tefillin, you could connect to God. And now it's like people are kind of removed from that, right? Judaism now, the emotional and spiritual aspect has been lost because we have so many other distractions. And, we can go down this whole path of American Jewry and how that's changed, and, the emotional aspect.
What I do want to say, though, is I want to go back to this notion that you shared, that there's moments that we're connected to God and moments that we're not connected to God. What I'd ask you, David, right now, are you connected to God right now?
Am I connected to God right now? Wow, Ryan, that's. I would say yes. I feel that what I'm through these interviews, right, talking to Jewish people and bringing the Jewish culture.
Okay, let me pause you.
Okay,
tell me a moment that you're not connected to God.
I feel like I'm not connected to God when I'm focused on doing my 9 to 5.
Okay, so when you're at your 9 to 5, what is beating is your heart beating?
Yeah.
Are your lungs breathing?
Sure.
Is the ocean still oceaning?
Yeah.
Yeah. So life is still happening.
Right.
What's making that happen?
I guess God.
So if you were disconnected from God, how's your heart beating? So I think what you're saying is that you forgot in those moments in 9 to 5, when you're in your technology and in your work and doing the life things that need to happen, you're forgetting that you're connected to God. Right. But if you were actually disconnected from God, you'd cease to exist. So I just want to pinpoint that, because I think that's actually where most of our anxiety stems from, is we spend a lot of time forgetting that we're connected to God. Our consciousness, it's not in our awareness that it's absolutely impossible to be disconnected from our source.
Right.
And that creates a lot of anxiety. In the same way, if you were a small child and you were in a big public loud place with your parent, as long as you're holding the hand of your parent and you're 3 years old, you feel good, you feel safe. But as soon as you lose your parent, that big space with all those people can become completely terrifying, because you've lost your parent, you've lost the source of your safety. Right. And so when we are in life forgetting that we are completely connected to the source of our safety at all moments, we feel unsafe, and then we experience anxiety.
Wow.
So you're always connected.
I think you're absolutely right. And I love how you interjected and took charge and challenged me. That's what I like from my guests. I like to be challenged. And obviously you're this expert on emotional intelligence, which we kind of just touched on there, and understanding, for me, right, you just made me realize that I am connected to God at all times. I have that distraction, so I don't really realize it. And I think the idea of emotional intelligence is often skewed, right? I don't really think people understand what true emotional intelligence is and the importance of it. So I guess for the sake of this conversation, give me your definition of emotional intelligence.
The capacity to pause in moments of distress,
Mm-hmm.
to become aware of the sensations and the emotions that are happening in your body,
Mm-hmm.
and to somehow find a way to effectively communicate them with others.
Hmm. Okay.
So emotional intelligence is a pushing pause on whatever is happening in my life, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
trigger is, the stimulus is that's setting me off, that's causing me anxiety, the thought that's stirring in my head. It's the ability to pause and go inside and go, what's happening inside my system? Ooh, my heart is racing. Oh, I'm feeling fear or anger or sadness. Okay. Before I go out there and react to whatever is happening, can I go in here and let it be exactly what it is? As opposed to needing to fix the anger, fix the fear, solve the problem. Can I actually allow the emotion that's authentically arising to just be here, wash over me? Can I invite it in? And then move into dialogue or into action on the other side from a place of deeply allowing that emotion to be here. Because it's interesting, based on our conversation we were talking about before,
Mm-hmm.
show me something that isn't God. Show
Right.
me something that can exist outside the realm of the divine.
Right.
Show
There's
me, right? So
there's
what
nothing.
is it about fear, sadness, anger, the darkness that
Mm-hmm.
we say we shouldn't experience that? That shouldn't be here. I shouldn't feel stressed. I shouldn't feel anxious. I shouldn't feel angry. I shouldn't feel depressed. What you're saying is I shouldn't be human, firstly.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
secondly, you're saying, and these things are not God. But what I want to say is anything that can show up in your life is God manifest in your life. So emotional intelligence is the deep acceptance of whatever is arising inside your system in any moment. And what's so
Right.
powerful about that is that you no longer have to run your life as a means to avoid being uncomfortable. This world is uncomfortable. It is existentially uncomfortable to be a human being on this planet, not just now, but always. You live in a
Sure.
body that only has a certain number of years to live. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna die. Bring that closer, right? You live in a body that can get sick, that can get hurt, that can get wounded.
Right.
Bring
Right.
it closer. You live in a body that experiences heartbreak. You can experience heartbreak. You can lose your job. You can live on the street. There's all sorts of vulnerabilities that come with being a human. And
Mm-hmm.
typically, what most of us are doing is everything we possibly can do to avoid the discomfort of life. And then
Right.
in that way, we become a victim to our experiences. We become a victim of our circumstances because we're staying in the job because I'm too afraid to take the leap into my passion of what I really want to do because what if, right? I'm staying in the relationship because I want to avoid the fear of or the sadness or the heartbreak that I would feel as a result of leaving the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not communicating my truth because I'm afraid that if I actually speak the truth, this person's going to judge me or leave me or fire me. And I don't want to experience the sadness or the anger or the fear or the guilt that I'll feel as a result of being honest. And so most of us are living our life in this consistent unconscious emotional avoidance. And therefore, we're not living authentically. And so what happens when you develop your emotional intelligence and you're just willing to feel it all is that you begin to recognize that you are bigger than your emotions. That if you say, I can feel this fear, I can feel this anger, rather than I can't feel it because it's going to destroy me, you are giving it all of its power and the very avoidance of the emotion. People say to me, if I felt my sadness, I'd be depressed all the time. I'm like, no, you won't. You're depressed because you're not feeling your sadness, bro.
Right. Right.
That's why you're depressed. You're
Right.
anxious because you're not feeling your fear.
Right.
The avoidance of the emotion is what makes it so much more intensified. And so
Mm-hmm.
emotional intelligence is this recognition, the real I, am bigger than the emotion and I can
Right.
let it wash over me, it's not going to kill me. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, the more I do that, the more I find a center of gravity
Mm-hmm.
that makes me unshakable. It makes me
Mm-hmm.
unflappable. I tell the
Mm-hmm.
truth, I take powerful action, and I move forward. If you don't like it, that's not my problem.
Right.
That's your stuff. If you don't like it, if you don't like that I'm telling my truth, if you don't like that I'm making the decision that I'm making, what's that got to do with me?
Wow.
Right? And
That's, yeah.
so what we and as Jewish people, I also think we deal with a lot of anxiety, we deal with a lot of codependency, we deal with a lot of like caretaking of other people often, and we need to get really honest
Mm-hmm.
about what's
I agree.
motivated, not just Jewish people, humans have to get
Right.
really honest about what we're bringing with us in every moment. What is
Mm-hmm.
informing our behavior, what we say, what we don't say, what we do, what we don't do in every
Right.
moment. And this is
Right.
not, immature what do they call it? Navel gazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's radically powerful to look inside yourself and go, oh wow, okay. I am tempted to not ask for this raise because I'm afraid that if I do, that I'll get, judged or maybe my boss will tell me, you don't deserve that. And I'm
Right.
realizing like, oh, I carry a belief inside of me that I
Yep.
don't deserve abundance. Oh,
Right.
oh, that's fascinating. Where did I learn that I don't deserve? Anyways, I can keep going, but that's emotional
I
intelligence.
God, this is so good. I think everybody needs to hear this message about being center, understanding that emotions are emotions, and you just got to deal with them, right? You can't let them pass over you. And I think as males, Ryan, we can have a serious conversation about this because I'm somebody that's very vulnerable and I'll share exactly how I feel. Like I don't bullshit anything. I will tell people how it is. If they don't fucking like it, they don't fucking like it. But with that being said, there's a big problem today that I think males, right? This sense of an alpha male and not having emotions and being able to deal with everything, right? I think there's a lot of pressure as a male, right? We are often taught not to have emotions. And I think that's a huge issue because A, you're not living your true authentic self. And B, like you were saying, if you continue to push down these emotions, you're depressed because you're not actually feeling the emotions. So I want to ask you about male vulnerability and, where you see the solution to this, right? I understand you're not going to have all the answers, but as a male, like I think we need to have this conversation. How do we, society, fix this issue that males aren't allowed to have emotions?
Small question. I don't know how we fix it as a society, but I know how we can help fix it in our own communities, which is
Okay,
ultimately how we lend toward the society as a whole,
let's
which
hear
is
it.
to do exactly what you're doing. Be a man who's willing to feel his emotions and communicate them. And if
Mm-hmm.
somebody ridicules you for it, okay, that's fine. Because there's plenty of people who will celebrate you for having your emotions and who
Mm-hmm.
will, there's plenty, if you're straight, there's plenty of women who'll be like, fuck yes, a dude that actually knows what he's feeling and can communicate it with me and isn't going to gaslight me for the emotions that I'm experiencing because it's too much for him and I'm too
Right.
emotional. Like, you will find community, you will
Mm-hmm.
find real friendships that
Mm-hmm.
align with who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
And the other people, bless and
Right.
bless. I think
Right.
the chemically it is emotions because women experience more hormonal changes consistently than males do. Just
Right.
so we have to do a little bit of extra work considering
Mm-hmm.
that, and also considering the
Mm-hmm.
societal message of, boys don't cry and you shouldn't, the only acceptable emotion for a man is anger, right?
Right.
And even that, so we just have to do a little extra work. But I think just be the example.
Mm-hmm.
Be the example exactly like you're being. And it's very simple. It's the work is the same work for any gender, which is just pause and feel, pause and feel, pause and feel, pause and feel. What am I feeling right now? Become aware of what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is, I don't know what I'm feeling, that's great. Okay, I don't know what I'm feeling. But I did the exercise to pause and see what I'm feeling, which is already a significant leap ahead of where I've been at, which is I'm not even pausing to feel. And if you do that enough times, you build it into your repertoire. You hit the sets at the emotional gym. Over time, you will start noticing those sensations physically and emotionally, and you'll develop a repertoire, a relationship with your emotional life. And you'll start to see that actually your emotions are a major gift. It's energy moving through your system. It's your body's way of communicating things to you, mainly whether your needs are being met or not. So when you're experiencing uncomfortable emotions like anger, fear, resentment, jealousy, sadness, it's just your body's way of trying to get your attention to say, I'm perceiving that I have a need right now that's not being met. Another way of saying that is, I'm perceiving that I'm not safe right now. Right? I'm perceiving I'm not safe right now. And so I have to, it's my body's way of trying to get me to do something to create safety, to protect, to defend. Right? The opposite is also true, which is the good feelings, the comfortable feelings, the happiness, the joy, the creation, the exuberance. Those are my body's way of saying, I'm perceiving my needs are being met right now. So I can lean into this present moment. I can be here now. I can, kind of interact with life. Whereas the uncomfortable emotions is trying to get me to pause for a moment and go, And what I'd say is 99% of the time, all that is maybe 99.99999% of the time, I am safe.
Right.
If you're listening to this podcast, 99% of the time, you're safe. We all experience moments of real unsafety. God forbid, but some of us more than others. But 99% of the time we are safe, but it is our trauma that's unprocessed. It's our biology that we live in an animal body that's focused on survival, right? That is telling us in these moments of discomfort, I'm perceiving I'm not safe right now. And most people are living from a place in this world where they feel like they're not safe. And so they're doing everything they can, as I was saying earlier, to try to create a sense of safety. Okay, if I can create, this is my comfort zone. And if I'm inside this comfort zone, right? So for a lot of people, that means, okay, I go to this college and then I get this master's degree and then I get this career and I marry this person and I have these kids. And for me personally, as a little gay boy growing up in Los Angeles, for me, when I realized I was gay at 10 years old, I didn't have language for that though. All I knew was I'm never going to be loved and accepted. I'm a weirdo, right? I'm different from everybody else. There's something wrong with me. That was because I didn't know what gay was. I didn't have any examples of it. I thought, oh, I'm the only being on the planet that's attracted to my same gender. And so my psychology was, okay, in order to be loved, which is in order to be safe, I'm going to have to prove to the world that I'm worthy of being loved so that then I can be safe. Right? Because if I'm loved, then I'm accepted. If I'm accepted, I have community. And if I have community, then I'm safe. Right?
This is Ryan, this is so good. And this is perfectly segueing into kind of your career and the personal branding aspect of you. You talk about paving your own path for safety, right? And, you kind of mentioned in your life, you didn't really get that sense of safety. You talk about growing up, realizing that you're gay at 10 years old. I know on Yair's podcast, you talk about dropping out of college. You were eventually on Broadway, which is not a very safe career. People go on and off Broadway all the time. And there's just so much unsafety that you've experienced in your life. But I want to talk about, just starting Waking Up with Ryan and paving your own path. So what point in your career, in your acting professional career, did you realize that you needed to pave your own path and start your own thing?
It's a great question. Firstly, I appreciate you for acknowledging the lack of safety I've experienced. I also have to acknowledge my privilege, which is I actually have an immense amount of safety in my experience.
Right.
We could feel really unsafe, but in terms of practical safety,
Sure.
I'm somebody who knew that my parents' home would always have a sofa for me, right?
That's
that I was
awesome.
never going to have to live on the street, that I was never going to go hungry. That I have a family and a community that love and support me. They might not always agree with me, right?
Sure.
But that I just want to call that out because
Sure.
there's people on this planet who obviously do not have that. There's people in this country, in this city who do not have that.
Yep.
So I just want to call that blessing out. So your question about maybe like what gave me the fortitude or the courage to kind of like charge my own path. In terms of creating Waking Up with Ryan, well, it goes back to, it's interesting. I had a lunch today with somebody and he was kind of asking me my story and I was giving him the cliff notes and he's like, wow, you have this really common thread of getting this really clear, intuitive, okay, I'm supposed to make this change. The difference between you and other people is that you actually do it. You actually take the leap. It didn't start with Waking Up with Ryan. Waking Up with Ryan was a manifestation of almost a lifetime of doing that and now getting to help people with that. So, for example, I could even go back to my early childhood, but I won't. 16, I start dancing. I was a smart kid. I wanted to be a biologist. I wanted to be a geneticist. I was like a smart kid. And did very well in school. And then I started dancing and it was time for college applications. And I said to my parents, I want to be a dancer and a singer. And they were like, no freaking way. Like, not that they don't support the arts, but they're like, this is new for you. And you've been wanting to go, and they were like, at least you have to get a double major in something serious, right? And blessings to my parents. I'm obsessed with them. They're amazing, but they were concerned. And I said, thank you for your advice. Turns out I got a full ride for my musical theater school that I went to. So you don't have a say in it. And I'm going to do this. And because I knew it was right, I knew the feeling inside of me was motivating me. And then my sophomore year of college, I booked Wicked, and everyone, including my parents and the faculty at the school, said, do not leave college because you need your degree. And I knew I was supposed to do it. So I just took the leap and I did it. Now I'm having a career on Broadway. I do Wicked for a number of years. And I'm starting to realize this is not the path for me. Okay. And I literally got a job as an assistant at a company that was called Endeavor, which became WME while I was there. And everyone said, are you crazy? You have a career on Broadway. You have an agent. People know who you are. You're in the hit show. Like you could. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not my path. Like super grateful for this success, but that's not my path. And I'm young and I'm making a change. And I went and started in the mailroom making minimum wage, and I just have this repetitive thing of becoming aware that there's like, Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. I saw a video from him years ago, and I might butcher this a little bit, but he said, your 20s are for, and I would actually argue to say like your 20s and like the first 5 years of your 30s. I just turned 40, by the way. I'm an old man, but he said your 20s do something different every 2 years. I love that, because then by the end of your 20s, by the time you turn 30, you've had a variety of work experience. You've built relationships in different organizations and companies. And then once you're 30, then make the decision about what you want to do with your life. And for whatever reason, I've had this voracious appetite to experience life. And that's what I want to say to people. What the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you doing playing it safe all the time? You live in a world that is breathing you and feeding you and giving you water to swim in and love in your heart and sexual organs to experience things. And like, you live in this amazing world that is giving you so much to experience, and you're staying in the bubble of your safety little world. And by the way, I'm not speaking to people who have responsibilities like children. I'm not saying, oh, well, now you should leave your life and blow everything. That is not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, for whatever reason, and I don't know if this is just who I am, but I'm hungry to experience life. And so nothing's going to keep me. If I feel clear that I'm supposed to go do something, I'm courageous enough and I believe in myself enough to know that I can figure it out. Okay. And so that, and by the way, I've had the freedom to do that as well. I have a child hopefully on the way. We're working on it, but
Wow.
I haven't had children. I wasn't married then. It's like I didn't have a mortgage that I had to take it. So why not do the thing? And a lot of the reason people don't do it and charge their own path is because the world's telling them not to. And I think part of being a powerful human in the world is, this is my life. Mom, dad, cousins, boss, my life. Thank you for your input. I'm going to choose what's right for me in terms of who I date, in terms of what job I do, in terms of what food I put in my body, in terms of what medicine I put in my body. I'm going to be a smart human being who gets all the information that I need to make the best decision for my life. I'm not going to do what you tell me to do unless I genuinely agree with what you tell me to do. So you gotta find out who you are. And the only way you can find out who you are is by willing to put yourself into life. And sometimes that's really uncomfortable because you don't know what's going to happen next. So you got to find your own courage. And this takes us back to emotional intelligence. Courage is the knowing that as you charge your path, you're going to experience blunders. You're going to experience failures. You're going to experience things that hurt. You're going to experience things not going your way. That's a part of being human, and that's a part of charging your path.
Right.
Courage is knowing that when you experience those things, you know how to take care of yourself.
Wow.
You know how to stop. You know how to pause. You know how to nurture yourself. You know how to create your own safety. You know how to reach out for support that you need. And then you go from there. So like, I'm thinking about a friend right now who like is so frustrated in her career, and she's so freaking talented, but she's too afraid to put herself out there. And it's like, so you're more concerned about what people are thinking of you than you are about your own success, your own living a creative life. Like, what's more important to you? Living a life that's deeply meaningful to you, where you're doing things in the world that feel really aligned and connected and inspired?
Right.
Is that more important, or is what's more important what people think about you? So for me, it's been more important to live my life. And that's the gift of coming out when I came out. Because when I was 16, I had to make the choice. What's more important to me? Being who I am, or pleasing my parents and my religion and my education system and my friends? Making that is making them comfortable my priority, or is me being myself my priority? And even though I was fucking scared, I came out and everything was okay. Did I have to have some hard conversations? Yes. Did I feel judged by people? Yes. Am I still here to living to tell you the story? Yes. I made that in connection with Hashem. I made that based on who I am. And I fucking love it. And I want everyone to have that.
God. I love your Ryan, you're so passionate. Like, just there's so much to that I could go off there, but you're so passionate, which I love. You're passionate about taking control of your life. And I often feel like why so many people struggle with emotional intelligence and anxiety and depression. Kids my age, right? They
How old are you?
outsource. I'm 22.
Amazing.
No,
Amazing.
Ryan, I got all the time in the world, but with that being said, like I have no time in the world because life flies by quick. And,
It's true.
a lot of my generation, their life is controlled through this thing right
Mm-hmm.
here, right?
Mm-hmm.
They outsource all their dopamine to TikTok
Mm-hmm.
and get it that way. And it's so sad to me, right? It's so, so sad. Like, thank God, like we were saying earlier, having gratitude, I think, fixes everything, right? Any situation that you're in, whether it's, getting mugged, for example, or you do poorly on an exam, or you get a bad performance report, whatever it is, at the bare minimum, right? Most of us, thank God, and me and you, Ryan, are in this situation. We have food. We have a roof over our head. We have loving parents, which I think being fortunate and being passionate about taking control of your life is something that's so cool that I see you doing. And not a lot of other people do it. And it's like, why are people preventing their passion? Why are you doing what society is telling you to do and not your own passion? Right? It's just, for me, with this podcast, nobody fucking told me to do this podcast. I did this podcast because I'm passionate about personal branding and I'm passionate about bringing awareness to Jewish people. And it's just very sad. And I'm glad, Ryan, that we're able to be on the same level about this. And, I appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Oh my God, of course. I love that you bring up gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
One of the recommendations I always make for people, very, very simple, especially for those of us who are in an unconscious practice of waking up and grabbing our phone, is as soon as you realize you're awake, to take a moment to offer gratitude that you are getting to breathe another day. And then thinking about a couple of things for which you feel grateful. And I always recommend making them really simple. Make them really simple. Like, I'm grateful that I can turn a faucet and water comes out that's clean. Can you realize in this moment what a blessing that is? Right? Simple. I'm grateful that trees exhale so that I can inhale. The more you can connect yourself, it's like earlier we were talking about, are you ever really disconnected from God? And the answer is no. The disconnection only happens in your psychology, in your thinking.
Right.
The mind gets so distracted that it tells a story that I'm disconnected. It's the same thing. Gratitude reconnects us in that same way. One of the things that you learn as you become more spiritually mature is that the mind is a muscle just like anything else. It can act like a muscle in that you can train it, and you can train the mind to be in service to your development as a human being, to be in service to your spiritual development even. So when you take a moment to become aware of what you're grateful for, you're using your mind to do that, aren't you? You're thinking about it. You're using your mind as a vehicle to become aware of who you really are and what you're really connected to. And the problem with the phone, the problem with these devices is they're like, 18 cold brews for your mind. They just take your mind here and there and here and there. And we talk about how we have the monkey mind. Like we have this like little puppy dog mind that's just like, and we don't even realize that we're experiencing so much anxiety because the mind is just so all over the place, and we're giving it the attention, we're giving it the stimulation of this device that is programmed for your distraction. It's programmed to hijack the mind. And so it's not that there's anything wrong with having a phone. It's just that there's something very wrong with letting the phone be in control of you. And so one of the things that I do is I put boundaries, because we're all addicts when it comes to our phone. We're addicted. We're not actively. Oh, I'm not addicted to my phone. Really? I don't think there was some really important task that you needed to achieve when you opened your phone and checked to see if you have any text messages or emails, and you update again, update again, update again. So you're not, if you're actively making the choice, if you're being intentional, it's just like anything in life. You want to go back to the conversation we were just having. You want to build a life that's uniquely yours and meaningful. You got to be intentional about how you're doing it, as opposed to letting life tell you what to do. Same thing with your phone, right? And so there's that precious moment right when you wake up in the morning, which is actually how the brand Waking Up with Ryan started, was I wanted to jump into people's life in that precious moment before the world took over their consciousness, right? There's a really beautiful, precious, I mean that precious moment right when you wake up in the morning, before the news and social media and your responsibilities and thoughts about money, and before all of that creeps right back into your awareness. There's a moment that you can go, who am I right now? Who am I? What's happening? I'm awake. I'm breathing. I feel the sun on my face. I have so many blessings in my life. I'm grateful. Okay. I feel a little more centered now. I feel like, okay, I'm ready to start the day. For me personally, I've gone through chapters where I won't touch my phone until I've gotten out of bed. I've done my, my morning things that I need to do, brush my teeth, whatever, sit to meditate, go take a yoga class, because in chapters of my life, I needed that much discipline, because now I'm in a different place where I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, but I can be on my phone and I can realize, ooh, hey, you've been on your phone for doing things that you don't need to do, and I can put it away.
Wow.
But that comes from discipline, right? So knowing where you're at, being really honest and really sober about where you're at, really taking a look and taking an inventory of how you're spending your time, and getting really honest about how you're spending your money, like all those things. Not to judge yourself, not to blame yourself, but to just become aware. If you're not yet living, which by the way, you're 22, so you're not supposed to be yet, but if you're living a life that feels deeply meaningful to you,
right,
it's because you're not taking actions toward building that life. And you may have all the reasoning and all the excuses in the world that keep you from taking those actions. But I've coached and I've worked with and I've seen people who have all the excuses in the world to not take risk, to not build a life on purpose, to have all the excuses in the world to not say no to things that aren't aligned. Maybe because they are a single mother and they have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And so they have to, I've seen those people, live intentionally, open their mind to the divine, ask for the guidance, take action in alignment with that, and build very meaningful lives. We don't have an excuse unless we're an actual victim. We don't really have an excuse, or we have plenty of excuses. It's just we have an opportunity to choose whether they're in charge or not.
No excuses, and taking control of your life. Ryan, I love your message, man. And just one final question to kind of wrap everything up. I know we talk about, the brand of Waking Up with Ryan and the intention of it to be, first thing when you wake up, right? Being mindful and being present and taking control of your life and all this. But I guess for your brand as a whole, right? You have a very big presence on social media. You have this coaching business, right? And you've been speaking out about the Jewish community, doing all these things, right? You're very proud and passionate. But for your brand specifically, Ryan, what is your end mission? I know we talk a lot about being present, right? And living in the moment, appreciating what we have in the moment. But at some point, we got to think about the future, right? So what in the future, what's your end mission with your brand?
The biggest goal I have for my not just work in the world, but for my presence in the world, the biggest contribution, if I am on my deathbed and if this has happened, I want every single human being on the face of the planet to remember who they are.
Wow.
To remember that they are God.
That's so powerful. I wouldn't think that like anybody could like really come to that realization and understanding that we're made in the image of God, and we really, God put us on this earth not to do things that we don't like, right? Obviously, we want to make the world a better place, and I think you have a lot of the amazing characteristics that you have. You're very selfless and you're very giving, and
Thank you.
I would
just say, I think God put us on this planet so that we could remember that we are God. Right? It's not so much about what we're supposed to do, or it's more God put us in these bodies to remember that we are more than these bodies. God gave us these limitations of years of living, and what we, it's like we're human. So we do experience limitations. I can't be sitting here in Venice Beach and be sitting in Tokyo at the same time. There's limit.
Right.
I think we've been given these limitations so that we can recognize that we are limitless. Does that make sense? We've been given a body to recognize that we are not the body. We've been given a physical world to realize that the physical world is happening within an energy that is much greater than the physical world. I don't live in this physical world. The physical world lives in me. I am what is bigger than this body, bigger than this world. And this body, this world, these experiences, they live inside of me. I am consciousness. I got my my latest tattoo. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it underneath my watch there. It's Hebrew. It says Hineni, which means I am here. I am here. Hineni. It means I am here. I am. And so that's what I'm really interested in, is moving beyond the illusion, recognizing there's nothing wrong with the illusion. The illusion exists within us, and we are the very consciousness that is aware of all these experiences. And when you can shift your identification from I am this body, I am Ryan, I am David, I am a man, I am this, and when you can shift your identification from the ego to which is a separate sense of self, to spirit, to the recognition that I am the awareness, I am consciousness, literally, like, you're unstoppable, because you don't experience yourself anymore as that which can be threatened. And there's a line in the Course in Miracles, to wrap it up, that says, in my defenselessness my safety lies. When I realize there's nothing that I need to defend against, that is my recognition that I am safety itself, that the truth of what I am is impenetrable, it cannot be penetrated by the things of life that have so daunted and scared me.
Wow. This is some very powerful stuff that, you're not going to hear anybody else talk about. And, Ryan, you've absolutely blown me away. This has been an incredible episode, and I hope that you as a listener have learned about being in touch with your emotional sense, understanding where safety comes from, appreciation, and of course taking control of your life. I'm a big believer in that. But Ryan, before we officially cut this episode, I want to give you an opportunity to share where people can find you on social media and hear about your work.
Yeah, just jump on Instagram. It's Waking Up with Ryan. That's really all you need to know. I have, different things that I offer, but they're always in like the link in the bio kind of thing.
Sure.
So just join me on Instagram and listen to the crazy shit I say.
Well, guys, let's follow Ryan. I remember on Yair's episode, you joked about, how you essentially have given away all this like free advice and gotten nothing in return. So I want you.
Did I say that?
This episode,
no,
yes,
I don't think I've
talking
gotten
about
nothing in return. But
you said no. You said sorry, let me rephrase that. If you got paid for all the advice that you've given, you'd be on a PJ and have yachts and all this stuff. So like, I'm with you on that, and I want you as a listener, if you're not already following Ryan, like pay it back to him. Make sure you follow him. It's literally the easiest thing in the world. You get to learn from this man, and he's obviously fantastic. And of course, you should share this episode with somebody, whether it's somebody that's struggling with anxiety or depression, emotional intelligence, or somebody that's struggling with taking control of their life. There's nobody out there that doesn't struggle with either of these things. So why not be a good person and share it with them? Like I'm giving you a layup with. So share it, follow Ryan. You know the drill. Until next time, keep schmoozing.